Welcome to the Tambellini Group's New Normal in Higher Education. I'm Raechelle Clemmons, and joining me here today is Dr. Jacquelyn Malcolm, who's the Chief Information Officer and Vice President of Enrollment, Marketing, and Communications at Buffalo State College. Wow, that's a big title. Welcome, Jackie.
Thanks so much, Ray. Happy to be here and have this conversation. Really timely and just an exciting time to have this conversation.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you as well. So, Jackie, we've been hearing a lot about demographic shifts in higher education. This has been a trend for at least probably a decade where we've been thinking about this enrollment cliff. We know that in many parts of the country, there is a decline in the traditional, 18 to 22-year-old college-going population, but we also see a rise in non-traditional students. And when we think about non-traditional students, and quite frankly, when we think about this current generation, Gen Z, we know that they have different needs and expectations from their college experience than maybe past generations did. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what needs and expectations are you seeing now from our students, and how has this changed in the last 5 to 10 years?
As you said, Ray, most of us are experiencing enrollment declines in our areas. And I would say this generation really is looking for institutions of higher education to really be in tune to what their needs are. And that's really working within the digital space, right? They want to consume information very quickly. They're not, hip on email. It's texting, it's social. This is the sort of Snapchat, IG quick generation. And so they want to be able to consume information in that way. Juxtaposed to that, where we're dealing with their families who have, different types of needs. And so really paying attention to our constituencies as well is important. So again, we've just done a lot of texting, a lot of social posts, and a lot of grassroots. And, as we moved into COVID, that's really allowed us to move more meaningfully into that space. We're certainly doing that pre-COVID. But again, new times, a new normal, to say. And so, again, it's really paying attention to what their needs are. What we know, too, even though they are highly digitized, this generation knows nothing about not having technology in front of them in their hand. And so it's all around them. And so how do we respond in kind in higher ed, which has traditionally been a space where we haven't been necessarily the quickest to move on certain types of technologies and uses of those technologies. And so I think, most institutions now clearly understand the importance of it. What we've transitioned into is an opportunity to really, put our admissions folks in the space of doing grassroots. That's another thing too, right? It's really saying, what are your needs? We're doing a lot of surveying with our CRM system as well. And so we do these micro surveys, and while we're serving up content, we ask them, by the way, what content would you like? They like to be consulted. They want to be able to be in a space where they can collaborate with you. And so I think that's really the space that we're in, paying attention. Every single generation that comes through is going to have different characteristics. Every class that comes through is going to have different characteristics. And so, but their expectation of technology is very, very high. And so we have to be able to respond in kind.
I'm curious about those surveys. Are there any questions or any answers that you've gotten to those quick surveys that were sort of surprising to you?
I think not from a content perspective, they're certainly looking for very traditional types of things, lots of one-on-one conversations that they're liking to have. And we do those throughout the day for our incoming class. And but, again, it's for them, it's more of, what are you looking to gain from us? And we're not getting anything that's sort of non-traditional, out of the box type of thing. We serve them up a lot of great content. We've got a wonderful virtual tour as well. It's pretty robust. And so I feel like even though they're not on campus, they can get a good feel for campus. So I'm not seeing anything that makes your head say, that's pretty interesting. But what we see, which is traditional, are a lot of tell me more about financial aid. How do I pay for college? We are a first-gen primary institution, so there's a lot of guidance that's needed in that space. Our financial aid sessions tend to be lively with questions, and so they're really looking for scholarships. Any type of funding opportunity that they could be eligible for. So
great.
Let's really pay attention to what content we're serving up. Yeah.
So you mentioned COVID, and you talked about how COVID has allowed you to do, or allowed you to move more rapidly into some of the digital communication channels. Are you seeing any needs or expectations of non-traditional students, of Gen Z students, accelerated because of COVID, or are you even seeing new needs and expectations emerge as a result of the pandemic?
I think they're definitely accelerated. So what we're finding again is, lots of emailing doesn't traditionally work for this population, right? And again, so, the more non-traditional population might lean a little bit more towards email and be okay with that. But certainly this new generation is, I'm not doing the email, I'm not clicking on it, I'm not opening it. Some do, right? I'm not broad brushing, but overall the characteristics are, just give me something quick. Give me an infographic. Give me that key piece of information you want me to know, and video. Video is huge for this generation, as you know, and they comment, and the videos they can be raw. They don't have to be highly, stylized and produced. They want something raw. This is a generation of, record it for 15 seconds and stick it up on social media. And so we found, as we've gone through our process, is we have to be a little bit more realistic about what their expectations are. It's the 15, 30-second piece that is over and out. So our videographers are very busy, but we're also helping folks understand that you can use your iPhone, you can use your Android phone. You don't necessarily need to use, like I said, highly produced things. You can use that sort of mobile tech to get done what you need to get done. So.
Is it just an element of authenticity? It feels more real?
Absolutely. And because it's genuine, it's authentic. Right. And so when I take myself for 15 or 30 seconds, there's a lot of opportunity to sort of say, well, let me do that again. Let me do that again. And the things that you can capture in that moment in time tend to be sometimes things you can't capture again in that way. So they want to be able to see that. So again, it's really, utilizing that mobile technology as well. And we even tell folks across campus, they'll call marketing communications and they'll say, we want this video. And we frequently say, have you thought about using a mobile device? And they're kind of like, a mobile device? That camera you have on that iPhone actually is really, really good, and there are just all different types of applications and things that can help you edit and get things up really, really quickly. Because that's the other piece too, is not just the capture, but the response time of getting it up on social. And so that's what we're finding. But, this generation, I think, as well as, the non-traditional, have very specific needs and expectations. And we have to be there to respond in kind and hopefully not be reactionary, and really be more in tune to what their needs and desires are. Right. I always say, our students and their families are consumers, right? And that's a dirty word in higher ed. They're not consumers, but the reality is they are. It's one of the largest purchases they'll ever make in their life. And they need to be treated as such, right? With a lot of respect, a lot of courting, and know that this is an important decision for them. And, when we look at technologies like, student success type technologies are really important as well as we move into this space. Retention is huge. And so we're always asking ourselves, what are the trends? What are the themes? And using those insights to help us be better and respond in kind to our students and the student support piece. So there's so many technologies campus-wide that I think we've taken an opportunity to take a step back and assess. Is it doing what we need it to do? Because we tend to just kind of roll through the years with particular technology. And it's like, oh, we haven't assessed that in quite a bit of time. And as budgets get a little bit more limited as well in our space, that, we're going back and saying, do we have technologies that can really help us solve that particular issue? And then utilize that as opposed to purchasing something new, which is yet another application we have to support and manage. And so it's interesting. It's an interesting space how we're assessing ourselves as well as what's going on around us in our higher ed space.
So it sounds like you think, just based on what you've talked about, technology can play a really important role in addressing, in helping to solve for some of these needs and expectations, right, that students are bringing with them. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Yeah.
Absolutely. And, we see it even in, as students come in with varying challenges that they need to be supported on, right? And so it could be technology on the healthcare side that helps, manage health and wellness. And, our students as well as many students coming in from higher ed, are dealing with anxiety and autism and depression, and they're coming in with other issues that they need a lot of support on, and we're here to help them do that. And a lot of ways in which we can support them is really making sure we have the technologies to really help track and move them through the different healthcare needs. And so it's campus wide, I would say. Certainly, we use technology in housing, we use technology in dining. We've done some, creative ways in which we're utilizing certain technologies. Our Slate CRM initially was only for admissions, right? And then now it's, well, wait a second, it has a texting platform within it, and we can onboard our current students in there if we want to send them different messages. So looking at our technologies for really sort of out of the box, alternate ways in which we can utilize them as well. So it's an interesting space.
It is. So tell me about, are there any really great examples that you can point to in practice, either what you're doing at Buffalo State or other institutions about innovative ways that institutions are using technology to really better meet students where they're at?
Yes. At Buffalo State, we're implementing a data warehouse. And so there's been tons and tons of data all around. And that's not something we lack, but we haven't sort of put it all together to help us understand what those insights are and then visualize those, right, in a meaningful way across campus. And I think what we find is really great, trending data as we move across. And it's interesting how many institutions don't utilize data in a meaningful way, right? And because we're not asking, what are we trying to solve? We're saying, well, I'd like to know more about this. But what are we trying to solve, right? And so for us, we are actually in a pilot data warehouse program with SUNY, which is wonderful. And it is through Blackboard and through A4L. And so it's exciting. And, when we started out, we were looking at sort of your larger, more robust data warehouse products, data lake products, things like that, and came to find we were really not in the space financially to really procure something like that. And so we have an entity within SUNY called iTech, which, happened to be talking with their CIO, and he said, we've got this, this interesting way of looking at a data warehouse. And I said, well, count us in, I'm in, and now we're in this, really robust pilot that hopefully will be ready to go by October to spin up. And it's a very non-traditional way of thinking of it because it's through Blackboard, right? Most folks are thinking about, like I said, sort of out of box, larger type of solutions. But for an institution our size, it really does work. And so we're bringing in our data sources and we're laying a visualization product over that and creating dashboards. And our culture really sustains more of a collaborative approach as it pertains to the way in which we're visualizing data and what data sources for standardization, so we can all speak from one tune. So we really took the opportunity to utilize technologies in a different way to be able to spin up a data warehouse. And so sometimes challenges in funding can help you, create innovation and be more creative in certain spaces, which is great. I don't know that if we weren't in this space that we were just able to procure it, that we would have gone in this direction. So it was nice to be part of the pilot and hopefully be a use case for other folks within SUNY to onboard this particular solution.
Do you, I think when I think of data warehouse, and I think when many, institutions and IT leaders think of data warehouse, I think of this as very much an IT-driven project, kind of back-end technology. How do you, given your role is both technology and enrollment and marketing and communications,
yes,
or as I said to you earlier, chief cook and bottle washer.
That's right.
How do you connect the dots between something like this data warehouse project and students and how it can better support students for the institution to have something like this?
Mm-hmm. So for us, again, with the student population that we have, they're high need, and there's a lot of outline factors that come into their ability to persist and retain. And so, again, what we do is we utilize our different visualization products with the data going behind that to really predict what we understand and know about the class as it comes in. And then we follow that class moving forward. And so we will follow them from fall to spring, obviously. We do look at retention rates, but it's not the primary way. Obviously, usually it's fall to fall, but we do that for our population because it's important. We look at their bills. We look at, EFC. It's interesting. We did just a quick, informational piece of research, and we found that for our population, that if mom had a college degree, they persisted more significantly. And so you find these interesting things, and it's like, and so we can then predict off of that, predict how we need to support them. Do we have a class where mom, went to college, and is that happening in mass? Or is that not as significant for this class? And do we need to change our supports in kind to say they might need a little bit more support in certain areas? We use we call it our Bengal Success Portal, which is our retention management system. And using that a lot too, it provides a lot of great insights. As the flags are raised, who's raising the flags for what? Are there themes and trends? And so everything we do has to be about student persistence and success. And so we spend a lot of time getting to know our students and the trends and what supports that they need. We just spun up a new academic commons right before COVID, unfortunately. But what we knew and understood is they need centralized services. They don't need to be going all of these different places on campus. And so the writing center, the tutoring center, accessibility, all of those are housed in one area. Study areas, other, different areas within the academic commons, which kind of centralizes and allows them to really focus on what their needs are. And so we look at what all of those needs are from a data perspective. And like I said, respond in kind, because a lot of times being reactionary doesn't get you that holistic solution that you're looking for. So it is really, really important to ensure that we're paying attention to not only that incoming class and what their needs are, but we've got a whole lot of other students who are already here and are deserving our, best of the best as it pertains to teaching and learning. We do have a new Title III grant, which offers a lot of great opportunity to, really onboard and support the technologies that we have. And it's just been really amazing to be in this space to do things like digital supplemental instruction and working with our instructional designers and really having us understand how we can best use the technology for great teaching and learning. So it's been an interesting space.
That's great. I think that's really important to really think about each cohort of students and really, get to the point where we're really thinking about how we can use technology to address each student individually and what they need. So my last question for you, you have this great dual role, as I said, enrollment on one side, technology on the other. So what advice would you give, either enrollment leaders or technology leaders, or bless them if they have your dual role? What would you tell them to be thinking about, that they can be doing to better leverage technology to meet their student needs and expectations and kind of serve them better in the new normal?
Absolutely. I would say certainly know your space. There are tremendous, opportunities to really gain insights. For example, your organizations like EDUCAUSE continue to remain educated in the space that it's moving, and it's moving faster than it ever has. And not only just tech, but higher ed tech and the higher ed space. Really, really important. I was reading an EDUCAUSE article the other day, and because my role is so massive, and it says, we all really now are functioning as CIOs plus, right? And it just resonated with me because of all the areas that I oversee. And I said, that's what we are, right? So we're coming in, needing to now be at the table, right, at cabinet, being the strategist as well. How do we translate technology into business goals in layman's terms with our colleagues? And so we now all are really functioning in a CIO plus type of manner. And the only way we can keep abreast and above all of that is to keep ourselves read and researched and paying attention to what's happening in our space, best practices, although there are no benchmarks for COVID. But we
not yet,
but certainly we can utilize different research, right? Talk to your colleagues as well. There are so many different great platforms just to ask a question and say, I'm not quite sure. How did you handle that? Because a lot of times somebody else has an idea you haven't thought of. And so I would say, talk to your colleagues, continue to be researched, know what's going on in your space. be innovative. Don't allow, the beautiful thing about technology, it allows us to do a lot of really great things. Don't allow yourself to sort of, minimize what can get done. And even in resource constrained environments, innovation can still happen. And it can be, challenging, but it can be exciting, because I think what it does is really help you think differently. And then when you can achieve success in that space, it's pretty amazing. And when your staff can see the achievement in that space, then they get encouraged and they get excited about really doing their work every day. So that would be my my best advice. I would say at times put on your armor, and not because you're in a fight, but because it's hard, right? And you need to be able to sustain. Given my background, I know I've been in many a crises, unfortunately, in dealing and understanding and knowing what that takes. But this is a sustained crisis that none of us have ever been a part of before. And I think my last piece of advice, good self-care. Know when you need to step away and clear your mind a bit. And even if that's for 15 minutes to get out and get some sun, but self-care is hugely important in the space we're in now too.
All right, Jackie. Well, thank you so much. So what I took away from that was suit up and take care of yourself. All right. Well, thank you. It's been a delight listening and learning from you about student needs and expectations in this new normal. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the new normal in higher ed.
Thank you.